Sunny morning, folks. Caleb Booker here on a very sunny day in St. Catharines. Today, another psychic reading, but we're going to be diving into the subject of being an empath, being empathetic in general, but also having this fundamental ability to connect with the emotions of other people. Okay, and this is going to be a psychic reading for Jeffrey. How you doing, Jeffrey? Thanks for reaching out. So, Jeffrey, you are you asked about your spiritual gifts, among other things. Oh, my hair is crazy. I look like a friggin' televangelist or game show host. Anyway, so Jeffrey, you asked about your spiritual gifts, one of the big ones being for you, in this case, empathy. Now, coming up for you, this is going to be something you got to get a handle on because your career path puts you in a position where you're in a lot of stressful situations with people who are experiencing heightened emotion. Plus, the people you work with are going to be the exact opposite of empathetic. They're going to prejudge everyone. They're going to have for certain philosophies about people that won't be particularly charitable, and those philosophies keep them safe. You know, they're fear-based. They're the kinds of philosophies that if they get cynical, they treat everybody poorly, and as a result, they maintain a certain firm control over their environment. That's why they do it. They're not just awful people, although their behavior at times will be awful. Your challenge will be to rise above all of that, to fight fear and instead stand up for what your values are. As an empath, however, you will find that you are easily overwhelmed by the emotions of others. So we're going to have to at first approach empathy from a perspective of, like, how do you manage it? How do you get it under control so you're not all over the place all the time? And then on the other side of things, how do you take advantage of it? Because this is going to be super, super useful for you down the road. You're in a position, like, without going into detail for the public, where you're going to be dealing with people who are genuinely sociopathic, who are genuinely psychopathic. And from experience, I can tell you that as from an empathy point of view, when you're working with somebody who's sociopathic, it's not uncomfortable. Surprisingly, it's just the opposite. In fact, you could talk about the most horrifying thing in the world, and it just all seems pretty normal. And in that moment, when you're wondering why it's not horrifying, you're like, I know what's going on with this guy. We'll get into that, but the first step, the first thing, is to get yourself under control, because at the moment you're not going to be able to correctly interpret the emotions of anybody. At the moment, you're going to be so overwhelmed with your own feelings that you'll project them onto other people. Now, projection is a psychological term, and what it basically means is you have an emotion and you imagine that emotion is actually coming from someone else instead of coming from you. Everybody does it to a certain degree until you get a handle on it, until you really get into your guts and figure out how you're feeling and why. For now, it's easier to just say to yourself, hey, my emotions don't always make sense, but they're there. And to identify them, to name them, to say, I feel this way. And it doesn't have to make sense, and it doesn't have to be justified, and it doesn't have to make you feel like a man to admit that feeling, but you gotta admit it. Because as soon as you do, you can get a handle on it. As soon as you cast a light on a shadow, the shadow's gone. So in that same way, cast a light on your emotion, you can get a handle on it. Biggest challenge for you is going to be to, as quickly as possible, get a sense of yourself. A sense of not needing anybody, of not needing anyone's approval, and of not worrying about what anybody thinks of you. There's a lot of ways to do that. You can look at the fact that, frankly, nobody knows you. When they meet you, they imagine who they think you are, and then they relate to that illusion instead of relating to you. People aren't actually feeling emotions about you in particular. They're just feeling emotions about the image of you in their heads. You can't take that personally. You just sort of have to discard it. And that's true for most of life. It's only until you get a really close friendship or a really close relationship that you end up with a person who actually tries to get to know you for real. But up until then, all of your casual acquaintances, all of your work acquaintances, they're all dealing with an illusion. So when you get an emotion from them, an opinion from them about who you are, it gets tossed out the window. Plus or negative, by the way. It doesn't matter if it's a compliment or a detraction. That's great that you saw that and you're reacting to what you saw, but that's not who I am. So you just discard it. The other thing is you have to get good at discarding people's invitation to feel a certain emotion. So for instance, and I'm sorry, I'm talking really fast, but there's a lot to pack into a short video, so bear with me here, but I'm going to blow it all out. So a lot of time in your life, somebody will invite you to feel hate. They'll say, those people suck. And you have to go, yeah, all right, whatever, yeah, they suck. And you just, stop. In your head, you just say, not interested. And you move on. Feel your own emotion. Have your own thoughts. Make sure that nobody can tell you what to think. That anytime anybody expresses any opinion about anything, you go, I'll think about that myself and decide if I agree or not. That's how you prevent other people's emotions from blowing your emotions out of the water. Because until you can really master that skill, anytime anybody expresses any emotion in front of you, you're there with them. It's like you're just riding the wave. As time goes on and you get better and better and better at saying yes or no, you can fully absorb their emotion. You can say, yes, absolutely, I will absorb it and see the world from their perspective, and then let it go and realize that was their perspective, not yours, and you just continue to have your own thought, but you still had their whole view. A lot of what you do in the psychic world and in empathy, which is where your specialty will lie, will be in adopting that mode on purpose, of diving into how the other person feels. So that's something, though, that's on the other side of you getting control of yourself first. That has to come. I can't cover everything when it comes to emotion here, but the last thing I think I can give you as far as technique goes is about breathing. First of all, go to church and pray. For you, that's your meditation. So dive right in, and it works. The prayer at church is a great form of meditation. So engage wholeheartedly. Have these conversations with God. That will set your mind right about a lot of things and help you center and gain control and sovereignty of your energy. But the other thing you can do when you're getting overwhelmed, when you just can't handle what's going on, is you take a deep breath and then blow it out through pursed lips. Just go, and use a little bit of your voice too. Just feel your chest vibrate. Just go, and let it out. When things are like totally overwhelming and then you let it out like that, you can turn a sense of horror into a little bit of laugh, and then you can handle the crisis. This is important to you because you're going to be in crisis situations all the damn time. And when you're feeling like it's a little bit out of your control, take a second, take that breath, and then get moving again. You can get things done. Think of it, if you really want a visual metaphor, when you breathe in, just feel it like filling you all the way to the bottom of your feet. And then when you breathe out, you're just blowing out all that shaky emotion and letting it out. Later, after the crisis, when you're in private, feel free to freak the hell out, because that's what I tend to do, especially with a rough reading, and we like a rough psychic reading, and we deal with a lot of high emotion. After they leave, or if I had to read like a lot of people in a whole night, I mean, I'm totally steady, I'm totally good for the whole night, but then in the car ride on the way home, I'm going, holy crap! And that's totally fine. That's totally fine. But yeah, we have to let this energy out when it gets in without our permission. So you gotta get that. One last thing, stuff you learn about being an alpha male, for men here, this is really going to apply. But you know what, women, look at the alpha male stuff. This is going to help about being your own guy, about being the leader who just like, that's great, guys, but I'm going to be my own guy. This is going to help you. Just don't be a jerk, okay? Remember to value other people. Other people are important. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter where they're coming from. There's a good reason why everybody does what they do from their perspective. But being an alpha means nobody can tell you anything. You're your own man. You know what you're doing. That's important to you. And that'll make it so that when you see other people's emotions, you can see it as an object outside of yourself rather than as something that's inside of you and you got to deal with. Oh, and one last thing. And this is, believe it or not, for all empaths, super, super important. Watch your posture. Stand up straight, shoulders back, okay, on both sides, shoulders back. Head up, not down. You don't look at the ground. You make eye contact with people. And when you speak, it's like you're aiming at a target and you're trying to hit it with every word. That is assertion. And as empaths, you automatically suck at it. But physically, if you line your body up and you aim your words properly, you know yourself, you are yourself. And that's like an automatic shield against all sorts of negativity. Some people are shooting a lot of negative stuff at you. Do that, you're confident, just like that. It's hardwired into the body to feed your brain confidence when you do that. So practice it. Now, Jeffrey, you asked about relationship stuff and you asked about career stuff. It's outside of the scope of this video, but maybe if you have any other questions, let me know. And anybody else who's watching this, if you have questions about your life that you'd want me to put in a video, leave a comment or send me an email at caleb@thepsychicvillage.com. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.